There's Nikki. Approved. Thank you, Chuck. So nice of you to say. I'm feeling a little, oh my God. So thank you. I'll take it. Hello, darling.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So these are from my friend Laura, who listens to the broadcast. We've known each other for years, but she makes, well, she's a fashion designer too, but she makes these beautiful feather earrings and sells them on Etsy. So I had to get them and I had to support her. And they're hand painted. Aren't they sassy? I love them. So, yes. So Raybird LLC, just sharing. Hi, Patty.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, Micah. Did I hit a wave? Yeah, I did. Okay, good.
Are you waving? How are you waving?
I'm waving because it comes up and it says wave, so I just wave when I don't knock my iPad over when I'm waving. So, you know, it's always a little bit dangerous to wave for me. But anyway, so, oh my gosh, I haven't talked to Nikki all day. It feels very strange and a little bit disconcerting. How are you, love?
I am good. I am good. I've had a really interesting week of teaching. I feel like everyone has just been a little bubble off, myself included. But still good classes. You just have those weeks sometimes where you're like, I've been thinking about what's for dinner.
Right.
Oh, wait, no, but they did that well, so that's all I care about.
No, I totally get that. I feel like everyone's a little bit keyed up lately, almost like there's a small electrical current running through them and they're afraid someone might turn it up. So everyone's kind of like, on pins and needles as they're functioning through the day rather than just kind of doing what they normally do and just navigating. I don't know if it's the weather. It's 4,000 degrees here. I don't know if it's, all of the states are starting to shut back down again and that's got everybody on edge, but there's a disturbance in the force for sure.
There's been a disturbance in the force.
Listen, it's been a bit of a mess, which is why tonight's topic is going to be so great because we are talking about your thought inspiration for this month.
Hey,
yes,
Uni.
agreed. Absolutely, Jason. Hi, Uni. We're talking about Nikki's thought inspiration, Abraham Maslow, and his hierarchy of needs. And it's really, really important today because we're talking about the esteem needs that I did switch outfits because I was cold in the other outfit. I'm not outside. I'm in my basement. I just did a bit of a forum on Pilates Anytime, and I was wearing something completely different. Anyway, so with everything in such a state, and we're talking about esteem needs, those are how we're feeling inside and how we are communicating that to the outside and how we affirm those things from external sources. And right now, those external sources are either up in the air, missing, or covered in God only knows what. And so everybody's a bit off kilter. So I think today's talk is kind of appropriate for, what we're seeing in our classes and seeing in the world at large.
And I think if we thought that a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago was ambiguous, hey, Lisa Huddleston, our kids went to school together. If we thought that the past few months were amorphous, ambiguous, unknown, a colleague of mine, we used to teach together, performing arts school, he referred to nothing from the never-ending story.
Oh, yeah, it does kind of feel that way, doesn't it?
But this time right now feels even more so with sending your kids to school, not sending your kids to school, hybriding your kids in school. What does that look like? E-learning. But with very little direction. Even the plans have plans. And I think it's just very ambiguous. And I think it's looking at where have I made the right choice? Have I made the wrong choice? You know, am I a bad mom if I send my kid to brick and mortar school? Am I a good mom if I send my kid to brick and mortar school? All of these things, I think, that we can't control externally weigh in on how we achieve our daily or our day-to-day work.
Right.
We, I just saw on some news feed that a meeting to discuss the wearing of masks was canceled because most of the meeting attendees showed up without masks.
You know, America's a very special. And when I use the term special, I'm going to leave that to your imagination, but I'm not talking about strawberries and rainbows and unicorns. Continue.
No, I mean it's just that. It's the land of what did you say? It's the land of me, mine. But then when that all goes to hell in a handbasket, it's like, well, why didn't you tell me? You know what? I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna move my seat back just a little bit. I'm gonna say this. I have a friend. He's an amazing physiotherapist, and he is from. I could be getting some of these wrong, but he's from Nigeria. He spent some time in Sierra Leone, and he's in his early 50s. So I'm just giving you a framework of time. And he did his education he completed his education in Sweden. And we were speaking last night, and he just has this really interesting perspective because he is not American. Not only is he not American, but he's obviously spent time in Africa. That's where he was born. But then he's also spent time in European countries. And he's looking at this, and he's like, where is just innate, inherent compassion? Where did that go? You know, and he again, he's seen conflict. He has experienced his siblings, they literally are scattered across the globe because they went, like his sister's in Australia. So he has this very interesting worldly perspective because of who he is and where he has come from. And he's looking at what's going on in America, and in some respects has seen it, maybe not framed in a pandemic, but he has seen it, and he's like, what happened to doing something because it was for the good of the whole?
Well, I can answer that. Like, I'm going to answer this. I'm going to drop the mic, and then I'm going to go have an ice cream sandwich. I'm kidding. I don't have any ice cream sandwiches, but I kind of wish I did. But, you know, we have, as a society, prided ourselves on individualism, right? You've got to be the rugged individual. You got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You got to go out there and get shit done for the power of one. And the reason why, in my opinion, Asian countries and even European countries have done better with this COVID menace is because they believe not so much collectivism in Europe, so to speak, but definitely in Asia. But they believe that a society is a society of a whole, not a society of an individual human being. You know, this is a huge problem when you're trying to get people to follow rules over an illness that they don't even know anyone who's contracted. You know, I see all the time these ding-dongs, pardon me, these people with opposing viewpoints to mine, but they're like, you know, there's only X number of cases in my area. And I'm like, well, you do know that people leave your area and then they come back. Maybe they don't. I mean, maybe you're from a place without cars and planes and stuff, and people don't walk past the borders, but let's be real. Viruses don't know borders. They're not, and just when you let your guard down, that's when it's going to sneak in. And this baby's mutating because that's what they do. They're opportunistic. So to assume that because you haven't experienced it, you will never experience it, aside from being a fool's errand, it's extremely short-sighted and, to be frank, dumb.
But it's also, even if you never experience it, that doesn't invalidate the people who have experienced it.
Well, if you're a person that thinks that way. But typically, I think we're looking at the same type of people who would say no. I mean, they've never been on a space shuttle, so obviously the Earth is flat.
Right. I'm reading what Jason is saying. I think that all of this ambiguity is causing people to second guess themselves within constructs that they wouldn't normally second guess themselves. And then they're like, why am I second guessing myself? Well, you're second guessing yourself because everything around you don't have control over. You don't have control over Costco deciding that they don't want people wearing Black Lives Matter masks.
Right.
You can't control there being a new policy for Walmart that you have to wear
Pants. Well, I mean, if you've ever seen the people of Walmart, you know that there should be a policy for that. I mean, there really should be.
Well, they should have changed that to full-length opaque pants.
Ooh, opaque. Yes.
You have to be specific. But and then there's another huge ambiguous circumstance coming up, whether it's school or whether it's so now we know that there are studios. I'm going to say studios because I teach Pilates. We know that there are other studios and other businesses that are being asked to close, or they're stepping back the phase. And there was this big, gather all of your supplies and hire your professional, sanitizer, disinfect your studio. And there was all, everybody's got gloves and these face shields. There was all of this stuff, only for you to go into work for 2, maybe 3, maybe 4 weeks, and staying on that path. But the ambiguity of the path, I believe, is what would be driving me crazy.
For sure. Sure.
That esteem piece is, am I a failure because my studio didn't reopen? Or I say failure. Am I maybe not making the best choices because my studio didn't reopen? Or was it a not so good choice because I'm trying to keep my studio open? And I made the decision to take care of my family. That is the decision that I made.
Right.
And when I made that decision, it was easier for me to make other decisions. I can control what goes on in my house to an extent. Everybody knows I got a lot of boys.
A lot. I mean,
and some snakes.
A team of some sort of boys.
Yes. And so it's, do you feel confronted with the potential for failure if you're trying to control things that you can't control? And then if those things don't work out for you in the way that you feel like they shoulda, coulda, woulda, then is that a reflection of you personally? Or is it a reflection of what's going on in the world? This is not a coveted, secluded little encampment that this is happening. This is happening everywhere.
But the isolation piece makes it worse, right?
Yes.
Because we are more isolated than we as a society have ever been, except for in Arizona, where those fools are not isolating at all, and Florida as well. I apologize if you are from Arizona. Oh, wait, Sean's here, and Sean is from Arizona. Lots of love to you down there. Stay safe. Wear a mask. But so when you're used to getting that, you're having that external reinforcement, you're used to talking to friends or family or showing off who you are by taking people to fancy dinners and all of these things. And now you're in a place where the only way you can show off whatever accomplishment you have is on Zoom, if you still have a voice by the end of the day, because you've been on Zoom all day. These things, I think, for a lot of people are chipping away at their self-esteem, at their self-worth. They're having a lot of difficulty figuring out where they are in this world right now. And then how are they going to express that? Perhaps they cry in the corner, or they get angry. They're mad about having to wear masks. They're mad that somebody's telling them what to do. They're mad that somebody took down their Confederate statues, blah, 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 and it keeps going. And so it's manifesting in a lot of people's anger and darkness and resentment.
Sure.
When really it's, I think, this whole missing piece of, you know, the getting the external reinforcement from that flow. What was that?
I said, hey, Jessica.
Oh, hey, Jess. So, you know, I think it's going to be hard for a long time. This in and out and in and out, and we're open and we're closed, and all this nonsense is going to keep going for a long time. And so what is it that we need to do to grow up as a society? Put on our big girl pants. And you know, I don't love pants, but I'm saying it's time for us to get dressed. It's time for us to put on our pants and locomote about the world as adults here. How do we do this without going basal and infantile in our behaviors?
Well, and I think that we don't corral our behavior. So, and to kind of piggyback on what you just said, people getting mad and people getting angry, and then going out and trying to control things in a way that they feel like they can control. Well, I can control whether or not I wear a mask. Well, yeah, you are absolutely right. But for some people, it's going to have significant consequences, whether it's personally or whether it's someone that they affect. I can control, you know, whether or not I send my kids back to brick and mortar school. I have to weigh their safety against what I know that they need socially, and they need it, what they need physically, that interaction with people their own age. But I can't control that other parent who may decide that their constitutional rights are being infringed upon, and they do not want their child in a mask. They do not want their child unable to socially interact with their friend that perhaps they haven't seen for some time throughout this. And then that starts to weigh in on our self-worth. If we don't feel like our esteem is in a manner that it should be to be supportive and to continue to be resilient, because this whole situation is very tiring, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. But I think if we take and write down literally what we can control, and we make a column of what we can control and a column of what we can't control, and for me, that is helpful in terms of my ability to stay sane. Because the anger is not just about one thing, and I think that that's an interesting thing too for those who are expressing extreme anger. The anger isn't about one thing. There are about 5 different, you know, tags that you could pull, and just remember those little books, and the little tab would come out, and a little thing. It's like, you know, this. And there's so many tabs, and those tabs are different depending on where you are, and those tabs are different depending on who you are, and those tabs are different. People feel that they need certain things based on where they are in the social and economical rung of the world. But at the end, you don't have to do anything. If you're on this Facebook Live, one of the things that you might want to consider is taking a really long look at if you're trying to control something that really is not within your power to control. And so then at that point, are you just beating your head against the wall? And then what? So now you have a concussion.
And I'm mad about that. We've got a lot of problems. So I want to talk about Jason's statement here, because he's talking about failure. And, you know, he's currently in the headspace where failure is defined as failure as a human being, and not related to money or job or home, etc.
Okay.
I think it's a huge statement. And I think it's a really interesting place to be in, because so many people associate failure with the tangible.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think there's two different types of people, right? They're the people that see failure as something, it affects it, it is affected by the tangible, and therefore they're able to dissociate themselves from it and maybe not take it personally, which is not always a good thing. And then you have other people for whom failure is always the only thing that they will define as failure, is something that comes from within, like a failure of character. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I even in just hearing Jason's statement, hey Bridget, even just in hearing Jason's statement, I was like, wow, he's all into his internal tribe, and he's looking at
You know
himself.
what? He has beautiful plants. And I know that sounds silly, but I feel like guys who plant and like sow these things, and they're building something out of dirt that's important, and can spread joy and cheer. I just feel like they're in touch a little bit better. I digress.
And being in touch with your internal tribe and taking a step, he's speaking about his humanity. And that's and what we're seeing is whole groups of people who are essentially denying that humanity exists.
Absolutely. Or it only exists for a certain group or function of people that they have deemed it so.
Or for a specific moment in time.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Now this thing is affecting me, so now I need us all to be human.
Yes.
And so I take that as someone who is look, here's the deal. Everybody knows me, I love the world. I do. If you are savvy enough, if you are loving enough, if you are caring enough, if you are aware enough to think about what's going on inside of you and how that is being reflected to the rest of the world, you already have a head start.
Right.
And that means, to me, Jason is already thinking about when, where, how, and who he can be of service to. He is already trying to figure that out. And he is trying to figure out, Jason, I feel like you're trying to figure out, where are you most applicable?
Right.
And even if, the statement that you're making on this Facebook Live, which has a lot of weight and a lot of meat, and because I don't think a lot of people are turning inward and examining their self-tribe. And if you can come out and go to the grocery store, put gas in your car that you're never going to drive because you can't go anywhere, and do all of these things, but if you're doing so from a place where you are intentional about what you're putting out there, that has significant value. Because obviously the world needs people like that. The world needs very intentional people who are stepping out. And even if you don't say a word to someone, I'm inclined to believe that you wear your intention not because you're putting it on, but because it's sort of emanating from you, because you're going in and diving deep and being aware of the person that's being presented to the world. And that has value. Because Misty can't go to Walmart because she doesn't wear pants.
I don't go to marts. First of all, let's be clear. If you see me in a mart, something bad has happened. It's like the zombie apocalypse has come and I am stocking up on steaks or something. Not the kind you eat. I'm not buying meat at Walmart. And that is my bias. The end. But yeah, coming back to that idea of being intentional, which we always seem to dwell on in every single chat that we have. But, it's hard to feel good about yourself. And this is just me, waxing poetic here, but it's hard to feel good about yourself if you are not intentional about the space that you take up in this world and the things that you consume in this world and the good that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying, you know, you have to save old ladies. I'm not saying that, you know, you need to be working at the food bank all the time. Whatever it is, I feel like during times like this, these are the times where we need to check in and dig deep and see what it is that defines who we are as people to ourselves and as members of the collective society that we live in. And if we're not able to come up with something, well, then you have to look at your life and see what's happening to keep you unfulfilled. You should have an idea of these things, especially at our ages, I think. Maybe.
I missed that class in school.
Knowing what you're doing in this world, liar. Liar. This woman is one of the most gifted teachers I know, and she's gifted because she is 100% into teaching. She's not like, and 5, 6, 7, 8 eggs, raisins, cucumbers. She's not planning her grocery list when she is teaching her classes she is in. And that is her contribution to this world. And it matters. Not just because I said so either, even though I feel like because I said it, hi Viviana, because I said it, it's more valid. That's all.
Well, and you know what? Here's the deal. I think I have learned in this time, and there was in the beginning, I would say like somewhere around May, I was possibly losing my shit, quite possibly, because I was like, I just don't go outside anymore. I don't think I went outside at all during the month of May.
You're going to talk about bike riding.
No, I wasn't. No,
I don't believe you.
And then I started going outside, and no, we had a couple of little, like, you know, with our neighbors and things. We had some cookouts, and it was, you know, all of the kids who had been together since this whole thing started. But I began to find joy in very small things. I began to find joy in very small things. My boyfriend's daughter got her first tattoo, and it was like, you would have thought, you know, Haley's Comet was glaring across the sky with our names on it. And it was just so cool. It was so fun and so cool because, you know, obviously we like tattoos. So, and it was such a simple thing, but it brought us such joy. And then, I'm constantly evolving my teaching because I think it's important, and I think it's important to find new things to do and new things to say and new ways to approach things, and that brings me joy. It brings me immense joy when my client responds. And so I look at the days sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I look at the days and I'm like, hour by hour, session by session, simply because when you look at the big picture, sometimes it is overwhelming. It is a bit gloomy. And sometimes you need to step away from that. And I think that sometimes people aren't doing that, and they're staying kind of down in the bogs. And the weight of what's going on right now is really, really heavy. And if you stay in that space, then how do you feel good about yourself? Because that is a teeny tiny single thing. And it's not going to take one single person to change this. It's really going to collective of people. And so going back to what Jason was discussing, if you are stepping out as this really intentional human being, that is the start of a whole. Someone else is seeing that. Someone else is going, okay, look at his face. He's smiling. Or driving by your house and looking in your window and be like, woo, he's the plant guy. You know, those things have value and they have meaning, and they bring pieces of joy that you're going to see a bit of a shift in people. And I do believe this. I know that there's a lot of big ugly, but there are also people who are bringing bits of joy.
Yeah, people are doing good things out there. You know, Viviana's on the call, or maybe she's not still on the call, but I'm pointing her out because she's in Pittsburgh as well. And, you know, I'm sure she was nervous like the rest of us. She went out there and she opened her studio. because she felt that that was the right thing to do, and she's serving her public, and she's a great teacher. She's got such great energy, and I'm sure her community really benefited just by seeing her smiling face and her giving. Are you there?
Yeah.
Something weird happened with my connection. But giving the quiet intention, putting it out there to everybody that, hey, this is a safe space and we are a community. And I think that that's what we all need to be working on in our space, whether, you know, we teach Pilates, but, you know, other people do other things.
Right.
Listen, if you're bagging groceries, but you're doing it in a way that is not mean and aggressive and makes people feel like, hey, I got some help with something today,
Right.
then that's a win. That is a win. It's not the big, heroic, grandiose measures that are important. It's the little things, at least for me. When somebody takes the time to smile for me or hold the door open for me, smile at me or hold the door open for me, I say, oh, wow, that was nice. And then, you know, for the next 37 seconds, I'm like, ooh, that was really nice. Somebody did something nice for me. And then I want to pay it forward. And that boosts my self-esteem because I received, I gave.
And so that's kind of what I was saying, or what I was thinking about saying when I was thinking about Jason's comment, is that even if you are questioning your own person, if what you're wanting to achieve is too big, okay, unless you are going to intercept all information sent on coronavirus to the White House and send it back to the CDC, unless you're going to intercept that, you have to think a little bit smaller, and the minute to minute, the hour to hour, the day to day, how you can be impactful. And it's those small things. It's that opening the door and smiling and giving Misty that 37, not 40, not 35, giving Misty that 37 seconds of glee. Those things matter. And I think we forgot that they mattered.
Well, you know why? I think it's the idea of, you know, no one listens to anyone anymore, right? Everyone knows everything. Everyone's the smartest one in the room. They got their degree from Google University, and then they got their PhD from the School of YouTube. And so now everyone is brilliant. And so what do we do when we're brilliant? Of course, we rage text. We rage text. And now, as a rage texter,
that's outside of the 37 seconds.
No, I mean, that's like the bookends of the 37 seconds. But seriously, sometimes I rage text because I'm really mad. And I typically rage text about when I'm really mad and I'm rage texting, it's something big. But sometimes I just rage text for fun, not aggressively mean like rage text, but I'll say some funny things related to a serious issue, you know, and I'm just kind of blowing off steam and I'm laughing a little bit. And I'm shocked at the number of people that really feel uplifted by it. But at the same time, you know, I'll get some nasty grams or whatever. It's not for everybody, you know. Sometimes you just have to learn when to scroll on by when there's rage text going on. My point is that we have gotten to a point where we allow ourselves to be affected by everything. The wind blows from the east, we're mad. There's only 2 squares of TP left. Well, I'd be mad about that too. But you know what I mean? Like, everything is a personal affront, and it's just not, you're not that important. I mean, I love you, but you're not that important. I'm not that important.
Well, and it just, you know, I think if the rage is continuing to bubble up, then we come back to that whole being. We come back to, what are you doing to, you know, it's sort of like an antacid, right? It's like Alka-Seltzer. What are you doing to diffuse the situation? You know,
What a relief it is.
Right. You know, and allowing that, do they even sell Alka-Seltzer anymore? I feel like
They do. I saw it in the store.
I was like, whoa. But no, I mean, I think it's, you know, even for the people who come to our Facebook Live, it is actually really cool. It's really cool that people are taking that time, and I'm hoping that we give them something. I'm hoping that you come away with a laugh, you come away with a joke, you come away with a different perspective.
On wearing pants.
Yeah. So when you go to Walmart, people, there's a picture of Misty.
No. I am not at the Mart. I'm not. You're not going to find me at the Mart, even if I'm wearing opaque pants. I'm just saying.
Long pants. But no, and I think we have to go back to, as we travel through the hierarchy, it starts at the bottom. It starts at just food, shelter, clothing, air, and then you go into safety and security. So if we get all the way up to the place where we're examining our self-esteem, our self-worth, how we fit into whatever worlds we fit into, right? Because we all have overlapping circles, but are you looking at what's going on in your house? Are you being conscious about in your house, your literal tangible house, and your house, your vessel that you're housed in? And are you providing yourself with the things to keep you in a position where your self-esteem, your self-worth, these things can maintain a healthy level? And sometimes you back it up. You back it up a little bit and you kind of see, well, where am I? Am I neglecting myself? Am I neglecting my needs in any way? And I think that when you're living in survival mode, absolutely you're going to neglect yourself. That's what it is, because survival mode is about that fight or flight. You turn it on and all you're doing is go, 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 going. In regards to states closing again or businesses closing again, that's just one of those things that I feel very strongly about. You have to start making, or it's advisable, or it might be a good idea, or it would be nice if you made conscious choices for yourself to pivot so that you're able to be ahead of the curve instead of staying in a place that you can't control. Get off the hamster wheel. Staying in a position where someone else is just spinning that wheel and you're just trying to stay on the wheel, get off the freaking wheel. Jump off. Because one thing we do know is that nobody is giving us good and clear direction about what's going to happen in this country. We know that. That we know. We apparently, we can rely on that. And so you can rely on what's above not doing what it's supposed to, then jump off of that. Put yourself in a space that you can control, because I can tell you from the perspective of a studio owner, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, that stop and start. And then if you are doing a combo deal of trying to be in your studio and virtual teaching, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That takes time away.
It's impossible.
It's a lot, and that time is valuable. That time is valuable. That time that you're not jumping in your car and driving someplace, and you have to get gas, and you've got to get the rubber glove on and get your gas, and you have to take the rubber glove.
God, I mean, is anything ever sacred?
Nope.
I mean, good Lord.
So these are things that I that's awesome. Moments of joy.
Yeah.
You can control.
Well, and taking control of the things. Ow. Ugh. Sorry. Taking control. Taking control of the things that we can control, right? We can't control the fact that everyone is spinning around in circles because there's no clear directions given, right? But what we can control is the fact that we're going to make the right decisions for our group of people, whether it's our family or our friends or whatever it is. And, you know, whatever that decision is, you may believe that all of this is nonsense and you're going to just go out and live your own life. And if that's the way you feel, like, I'm trying not to judge you for that, because I'm working on not being judgy. But what I am going to do is say, at least you're doing something. And that, okay, I'm lying. This is all lies, actually. What I really want to say is, I mean, that, sure, whatever. But I would hope that we can find a way to find the small ways that we can build each other up and be kind to each other and make decisions that help the people that are around us. Yes, Mark, always a problem with these damn cats. But in a way that's going to keep the people around us safe. Jen Rosenberry, who's on the call right now, she and her husband work in a hospital. You know, if cases go up and cases get stupid, these are people that are going to be affected so negatively, and nobody seems to give a damn about them. Well, I care. These are people that are really great, solid people. And anybody, I think, that's in a field where they are subjecting themselves to all kinds of plague, pestilence, and other things that I don't do fluids, so it's not my jam, but you know what I mean? I think that we owe them for putting themselves in the line of fire. We owe them the respect to be mindful of what we do and how we do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in being mindful, so then, you know, like when you say that, and I think about, you know, people on planet Earth right now who are just deciding to do what works for them, you know, it's sort of like, okay, so then that's how you go through your life. What is your expectation from your children's school? What is your expectation from going to the grocery store? What is your expectation at the gas station? Because these are all sort of community places. And then when someone else expresses their expectation, that other, you know, that person is wrong. You're wrong. How did my expectation, why is my expectation and what I think I need or deserve, why is that less than? Because you're just louder. You're louder, maybe you're bigger, you know, whatever. And I think that that's where everyone is. I think a lot of people are in that. I think some people are in that position because they just like to be there. I think that they've been that way. They came out the womb that way. That's how they were raised, and they're going to get theirs. Period. But I also think that for some, it's a feeling of despair and hopelessness, and they're trying to glom onto something that they can control. And I'm going to bring it back to self. You know, there's a self in self-esteem, there's a self in self-worth. And so if you're looking outside of yourself to attain those qualities, those characteristics, then I believe for me that that is not productive.
It's the Daffy Duck principle. I make a lot of Looney Tunes references in my daily life, in my teaching. A lot of people I work with don't even know what Looney Tunes is because they're so young. It's disappointing. But remember, Daffy Duck would get all salty and he'd scream and run around, mine, mine, all mine, throw his temper tantrum, stamps around. He was just mad all the time. Daffy Duck needed a Xanax. I feel like maybe if there was more Xanax, people would feel better. No, I'm kidding. But it's that singular mindedness, and that single mindedness is focusing on self. So
Yes.
it's taking that idea of self-respect and self-esteem and turning it on its head and becoming selfish and greedy.
Yes, which is very different. And having self-esteem is not about being greedy. It is not about being unforgiving in terms of how you put yourself out there. So, in terms of like, okay, we live in communities. We have communicable diseases. And I say this, no judgments. If anyone's on here, I vaccinate my kids. The ongoing argument about to vaccinate or to not vaccinate, okay, fine, whatever. Except we live in communities. And within communities, there are communicable diseases. So the idea of vaccinating is not about just the individual. The idea is about the community as a whole.
The herd.
The herd. And so you can say that there are going to be X number of people who are going to have self-esteem and arrogance. Absolutely, I think there's a difference between self-esteem and arrogance. Mark, hold that thought. No, but
pin that, yeah.
It's not an individual choice that I'm making to vaccinate my children. It is a communal choice that I'm making. And, yes, there are going to be occasions where people are going to have an adverse reaction to a vaccination. Absolutely. But if you go back to the beginning, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying this is just fact. But the group as a whole has a protective mechanism. You don't eliminate penicillin or amoxicillin because there are people who have allergies to them. We know that people have allergies to penicillin and amoxicillin. That was part of the reason why they were coming up with
alternative.
But you don't decide, nobody's going to use penicillin, because there is a percentage of the population that is allergic, and it will be deadly to that population. Understood. But that doesn't wipe it out for everyone else, because it still has significant value. So when we encounter people who decide that their individual needs are more important than the whole, that, Mark, is arrogance. Me having this.
What you did there.
Did you like that? Did you like that?
Flick.
The idea of self-esteem is about having the internal power within your internal tribe to stand in your space and to give your opinion within a rational discussion, to support your position, to make choices and decisions with the understanding that you may not have the outcome that you would like, but not allowing it to defeat you. Being able to hear people say things to you or react to you in a certain way, but to understand within yourself that what you're saying or doing is not about having a negative impact on them, but it is about just being in your space and sharing who you are in the way that you are and not shrinking from that.
It's having the wherewithal to navigate the bullshit and not allow that to change who you are.
Exactly.
It's kind of like when you're a kid and you're bullied. Anybody on this live that's not been bullied, congratulations. Like, I don't even know how that happens. But, when you're a kid and you're bullied, listen, I remember specific down to the smell in some instances when I was bullied as a kid. I can smell where I was. I can tell you what time it was. All of that is etched into my soul. Mm-hmm. But I got to a point in my life when I realized I had to make a choice. And it really was a choice. I had to say, am I going to allow this to define me, or am I going to allow me to define me? And, you just don't have that in your teens, I don't think, or at least I didn't. But when I found it in my 20s, my whole pure view changed. It allowed me to understand people better when I was able to let go of some of that darkness, when I was able to let go of some of the selfish veneer that I had built up as a protection, one, from dealing with what that was, and two, from the fear that that would happen to me again.
Right.
You know, I think that when we talk about those things, you can't really develop a healthy self-esteem until you've looked at your life in that way, and you've shifted your perspective from the it's all about me to the it's somewhat about me, but it's also about who I am in this space, in this world, like you've been saying, where I stand, how I fit, and how I progress through the primordial soup that is this life, and in particular 2020.
But if you're bullied, you don't feel safe and secure.
You're not safe and secure.
Exactly. And
you're
so,
not even safe and secure in your own head. So you haven't even made it to this level yet. And the problem is that if you don't let that go, you don't get to this level of self-esteem. You're stunted back at your safety and security needs. And then you're running constantly in fight or flight. Limbic system distress is terrible. Your adrenals blow out. It's bad. You're sick.
You're sick, and you're also always on guard. You know, and I think that that's what this particular moment in time in history and space, I mean, it's hilarious. It's the middle of July. When the heck did it become the middle of July? And yet, here we are halfway through the year, right? But everyone has been in fight or flight mode, and I feel like that's why everybody was like, woo, the bars are open, the restaurants are open, let's go. And it's like, yeah. But it was that desire to be with people, and I do believe that that was like a huge thing. We have a lot of people, so we're good. But I think that it was some of us had a desire to be alone. But I do think it was the desire to be with people, but I also think it was people who felt like something was being taken away from them. That mindset, this was taken away from me, versus thinking, as a collective, this is something that I can give to the whole.
Right. And
that's a different perspective. And that's taking a step back and looking internally and saying, is this really something that's being taken away from me? Or is this something that I can do? Is this something that me, the individual, I can do this for the collective whole?
Is this face covering really detracting from my quality of life? Or can I wear this face covering to protect the person who's at the grocery store because they have nobody else to shop for them, and yet they have to be there? I wear this face covering not for me, but for you. Now, if I had a very stylish one that went with these earrings, I might wear it for me and for you, because it all comes back to style points. But I'm just saying, once again, that's spinning it so I feel good and you feel good too, because I'm not giving you ick, so to speak.
Or health insurance. Yeah.
Well, that's a big deal too. That, you know what, and I can't believe it's taken us this long to even come to that. But yes, so loss of a livelihood for a lot of people is devastating. And there are people who are looking at their financial ruin because of these rules that have been put in place. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they didn't save enough. It's really hard to do that in this day and age, but because if you live in New York and you own a Pilates studios are shut down. They've been removed from all phases of reopening, and they don't know when they're going to get to reopen, period. It's just this big question mark, but the bills are still due. No one is saying, oh, don't pay your mortgage because you own a Pilates studio. Oh, wait. No one's saying don't pay for your studio rent. There is no protection for our people.
Right.
None.
And that's a real thing. And at the end of the day, well, I would speak from my perspective. I chose to take care of my family. That is what I chose. I chose to put myself in a position where I could take care of my family. And it's not that I'm, it floats through my mind ever so often, wow, I really wish I could get out of this lease in this space that I really can't use. But I chose and I continue to choose to take care of my family. And, you know, we're talk to their dad, and we're 95% sure that we're going to e-learning in some shape, manner, or form. Because we just don't believe that people are going to do what they're supposed to do, and we think that they will start and get through September, maybe October, and then it'll all go to hell in a handbasket.
But how fortunate are we to be able to do that? I mean, honestly, this career choice has afforded us the ability to do that. Like Marco said, health insurance. People don't have health insurance, but they have to go out and work. What happens if they do get COVID? I was reading something the other day. This guy was in the hospital for 42 days, I believe. His hospital bill was $900,000.
Yep.
He had insurance. Oh yeah, catastrophic insurance.
Yes.
He probably has to pay $850,000 of that $900,000. But you know what I'm saying? It's once again getting back to Maslow. It's the safety and security need that's taken away. It damages our self-esteem. If we were up here, now we're back down here. We get selfish as a protectionary mechanism.
And that's a deep place to be in, right? Because there are people for sure, and my heart goes out to them. Yes, I am very fortunate. I would say that we have all of our needs, and we have a good amount of wants. But I will tell you this: my boyfriend's an essential worker. He builds power lines. We're in hurricane season. The pandemic doesn't really care.
Last I checked, they weren't like, oh yeah, we can't come back until November because it's hurricane season.
And so, you know, we've got heat waves across this country. Those are ripe for things blowing up in the electrical world. And so he is an essential worker. They run to the storms. And so that's the world I live in. So yes, we are in a good place, but we are also in a place where if you want electricity, linemen work. And that's a thing. And it was a, you know, I'm like, you know, when we started dating, I was like, oh, that's so cute. He builds power lines. And then I was like, oh, wait, there's a little bit more of it to it.
Yeah, I mean, power lines. It's not like pickup sticks.
Well, I mean, but it's also, you know, I've been with him when he's been gone for 3 weeks. Storm. He was in Florida during that last storm. Gone 3 weeks. And so it's.
Don't you like that though, when they go away and it's like, oh my God, the bed is all mine. It's so peaceful. Nobody is farting. Nobody is talking. Like I am in my bed alone. Watch this. Ooh, I mean, I just do love it. I mean, is that a bad thing to say? Probably. I'm all right with it.
It's not a bad thing. No, actually, it's actually really cool. It's a much needed time away sometimes. But it's you know, people are playing bumper cars. You know, like you go play bumper cars and you're that car that gets stuck in the middle that everyone's just ramming. And it's like they don't have health insurance. They lost their job. They're not quite sure, you know, that stimulus check was spent before they even got it. Or they got it on the debit card and they didn't know it was a debit card and they threw the debit card away and then they had to get another debit card and then they were charged $7 for the replacement of the debit card and then they had to go someplace to use the debit card that charged them fees for using it. I mean, it's like you can't make this stuff up. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so they're literally that car in the middle and they're just getting bumped and bumped. And I get it. You two are better than
Thank you, Erica.
But I'm still gonna go back to moments of joy and I'm not being hypocritical. I'm not living up here in rose-colored glass land. I'm not. Because I didn't step into this world that I'm in terms of being able to teach Pilates. Like I didn't just step into it. It wasn't given to me. I worked very, very hard for it. I've bartended, I've waited tables, I've done it all. You know, I worked retail. And so this isn't something that I just, you know, happened upon. But by the same token, yes, I'm very fortunate. And I'm very fortunate that I was able to pivot. Misty was able to pivot. And but at the end of the day, I'm home with my kids and trying to teach and trying to do um, create a semblance of normalcy. And my intention over the next month is to decide what is our normal, not new normal, but what is our normal. Because that phrase "new normal" is there is a to me there is a lesser than tone to it.
How so? This is curious.
It feels like we are conceding in a way, or that, when people talk about going back to normal and that, oh, well, now we're in this new normal, like it's missing stuff. Like the new normal has parts that are missing and parts that people
It
want.
is. I can't go to the steakhouse. God damn it. I'm missing steak.
Okay.
Like, out.
I view it from the perspective of some of those pieces, they needed to go away.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
See, I actually like the term new normal if it's used properly. Like, in my mind, new normal is kind of a temporary stepping stone. Oh my gosh, you have to send pictures to us, Mark. We have to see what your tiny house is going to look like. This is so cool. But for me, in my mind anyway, new normal is a stepping stone. So it's like a normal placeholder. The old paradigm is over. We're not coming back to that for a long time. And by the time we get back to that, that will no longer be normal. So it's old normal, but it's passe, it's over. The new normal is just this current pass-through place until we get to superior normal in like 2024. In my mind, right, Age of Aquarius, but I rationalize it that way because I feel like we have to be prepared to move forward. It is accepting, yes, thank you, Bonnie. It is accepting where we are right now as a place that's not invalid, as a place that's not terrible, horrible, very bad, but as a place that's going to help us prepare for the next step. And I think a lot of the problem that's going on is these Nimrods that, are having temper tantrums about their shoe size. I feel like those people only want normal if it can be defined in the small box of parameters that it used to be. And that's just not, it's like saying, well, I'm 97 years old, but if I don't get to be 28 again, I'm going to throw a big temper tantrum every day. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, I'm going to comment, Mark, on what you said. The American dream has turned into the American nightmare. I'm a Black woman. The American dream was not designed for me. So I've never.
But you have your own dream and you live in America, and that counts for something. The Absolutely. American dream,
Absolutely.
Not ours.
I think it's interesting that in this context that we're discussing the normal, the new normal.
Pause for a minute. I'm just going to throw this out there. This is our break the machine right here. This is our break the machine topic. Go ahead.
Okay. So the American dream. Yeah. Okay. So the American dream was not designed for Black people. And so when we talk about, so that was my point when I said, the new normal. I'm like, yeah, some of that stuff can stay back there. Just is having conversations with people talking about how do you explain that you gave 80% of your mortgages to the most affluent neighborhoods in the city of Chicago? Like, how do you sit down and have a conversation with that? And like with the level of sincerity, other than the fact that you would say, well, because I wanted to, because we want to perpetuate white wealth and affluence. Because that's really what, you don't have to say that because you gave 80% of the mortgages to, so how do you sit down and have that conversation? So that dream, that white picket fence, that American dream, there's no, that wasn't normal to me. We're still talking about, in 2020, we're still talking about redlining. Seriously? we're still talking about redlining. We're still talking about people who have lines on their Ds that say "Do not sell to Negroes."
Right.
What doesn't exist, Mark?
The American dream, I think.
Oh, okay, I was like redlining. And so just all of these things that really weren't they weren't looking at African Americans. I speak from the African American perspective because that is the perspective that slaves were brought to this country specifically to create a labor force, a free labor force. And so when you speak about things like the American dream, and I understand your perspective, Mark, when you speak about things about the about the American dream, we weren't factored into that. Apparently we're still not factored into it.
Right.
And so that sense of normalcy that people are like, oh my gosh, when are things gonna go back to normal? And I'm like, I'm good. Like, I don't need your sense of normal.
Well, like make America great again. It's the same idea. Like, do I want to go back to 1950? I think I would have been shot in 1950. I'm far too outspoken for 1950 in any way. Being a person of color, being a woman. I'm only 5'4". I shouldn't be as cranky as I am. I don't know. For all of these things and all of these reasons, 1950 is not really my dream decade.
No.
The era of Mad Men, also not my favorite. The 80s, yeah, shoulder pads, fluorescent, spiky heels, big hair. Oh man, 80s, I'll take it any day. I won't take Reaganomics. I won't.
No, so I think it's just deciding, I think it's deciding what is normal and what is a normal. No neon. Please do not encourage.
Yes. Oh yes.
God.
And menswear.
She's gonna make us do. Yes, Black folks have been living this way for a very long time, and it's not normal. I mean, it's not. It's nothing about the lack of humanity towards African Americans in this country is normal. And it's being seen, it's being challenged. Hopefully it will not remain a trend. Hopefully it will continue to move progressively forward. But we also have to be mindful of how we approach people or how we're dealing with people during this change, because to be equally, if not more volatile in this circumstance, for me, is not productive.
It's downright dangerous. You can't do it.
To shout about things that you want or demand, or Black people deserve this and Black people deserve that. And I understand the sentiment. I understand where it's coming from, but to meet someone with a level of hostility, you have to take a step back and decide if that is going to meet your point. If you're going to be able to get to the change or get to the resolution that you seek, if there is a level of hostility. Now, do not mistake standing up for myself. I'm race 4. I'm race 4. Issa Rae. I'm rooting for everybody Black. It doesn't mean that Black people don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that Black people don't commit crimes. But what it does mean is we are held to a significantly different standard. Me, I don't like conflict, but I do like speaking my mind, and I want to be heard. And when I say something, I want someone to feel very challenged that they have not heard my position. I want them to really think about, because I haven't come to them with this really like, rah, 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 rah.
What was that again?
Because people don't want to hear that, and the words get lost in the anger, and you can be angry, and you can have fire, and you can have passion, and you can be 150% right. But if you aren't heard, then it doesn't have great value.
It doesn't matter, actually.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it doesn't have any value. I'm going to say it doesn't have great value. You know, and unfortunately, some people might feel like this is one of the hurdles that Black people have to go through. You can't say it too mean, you can't be too aggressive, you know, you can't
have to
have
have the right smile on your face.
exactly, you know, your
can't
hair
look threatening.
you know, just all of these things, right? You have to go in an acceptable demeanor in order. No, I don't kowtow to that either. But I do know that I think I didn't even know. Did you? I didn't even know you knew about the age of Aquarius.
Oh yeah, you and I have talked about it.
Okay, good. We have. Okay, I don't remember anything past 30 seconds ago. So yes, age of Aquarius. But I do think things are shifting. You know, but we all know that shifting and what needs to happen in not just this country but on planet Earth and in the world is we're not going to glide in on a beautiful unicorn or a black Pegasus. We're not going to just glide in and be like, you know, oh. No.
On roller skates?
Possibly.
Because I'm gliding in on a palanquin, and I'm gonna have like 4 just fantastic men, like Lenny Kravitz and Jason Momoa and that guy and the other guy, and they're gonna carry me in, and I'm gonna be like this.
Will there be fans? So that
Fans and grapes and ice cream sandwiches and Cheetos. That is.
What are you saying, Jason? I have a for y'all. We'll suggest. Okay.
So Jason had a point up there, though. The fear that white people feel now due to COVID is a microcosm of 400 years of what African Americans have felt daily. You know, that perspective is interesting to me, and here's why. It's kind of like the war on drugs, right? So nobody cared when Black youth were exploding, dying, being decimated by crack and the drug crisis. But as soon as it became opiates and as soon as it became white communities, then it was a problem. Then we had to eliminate these mandatory minimums. And then, you know, now, and I still feel like, especially for nonviolent drug crimes, I feel like we still are doing such a huge disservice to anybody. So I want to just put that out there, but it's the same type of thing as this. So when COVID was kind of in its infancy and it wasn't really looking like anyone who had big bucks and big cheddar was going to be affected too badly, then we could shut everything down. We could be careful. We could look out for the hospital workers. We could care about all this stuff. As soon as it was being proven to affect minority communities much more, and B, the businesses that were going to have the highest fail rate were minority businesses, it seemed to me, I mean, it was literally the next day when all that data came out. It was the next day when we all had to hurry up and get back to work. And that's a problem for so many levels. Go me, I thing that is American culture, that drives a further division
Right.
between people, and it allows them to stop paying attention on the needs of the collective because they have to sink or swim. And now we're seeing the longer these shutdowns happen, the more people of all stripes are going to be affected, and now all of a sudden it's a problem. But
Right.
not, but still, you know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, but none of that is a secret. I mean, because
it's a secret for some.
Yeah. Well, we just hit the 25th anniversary of the heat wave in Chicago that disproportionately affected African Americans. That's like a phrase now, the disproportionate effect, you know. And so many people passed, and it had to do with it was elderly Black, and it was just, I mean, like, people literally, it was just hot. And there were no, we didn't have our cooling centers. We didn't have any of that. And it's why we actually have a pretty decent plan for extreme heat. But it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bad. And it was also really violent that summer. And it was just bad. And it was that sense of despair. And things are shifting. Things are changing because the way that one large sect of the country is treating another sect of the country lacks basic humanity. It just lacks basic humanity. That's what it is. It's not about, it's looking at someone, and as long as that, those differences exist in terms of how African Americans are treated in this country and how they have been treated, you can nitpick at it. It's this is this is this is this is this, but the reality of it is that we are not seen as worth it. But even amongst that weight of that, and I know that there are some people like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and there's this Black person who is wealthy, and there's this Black person who has made it, and there's this Black person who has done it. And I always say to people, who invented the stoplight? And they're like, well, I don't know. Because don't you think that's strange? Because it was invented by a Black man.
Oh, so many things.
And it's like, it's used every day. It is a functional, I don't even know that they consider building streets without deciding, is it going to be a stop sign, or is it going to be, a stoplight, depending on the flow of traffic, right? But these are not exceptional people. They're not exceptional because they made it through the cracks and they got to shine. They're not exceptional. Black people are beautiful and loving and brilliant. They're just not allowed to be that. But these are not exceptional people.
And they wear pants.
And they do wear pants, Misty. They do wear pants.
They wear pants. I think pants is a really good way to end this live tonight, because we've talked a lot, but I feel like we also talked a lot about things that maybe people hadn't thought of before. So everyone, thank you so much for coming to play with us this evening. Hey, something to tell you though, we are going to mix it up a little bit. We are going to have a guest on ThoughtFlow.
Is it on Thursday?
Well, so, here's the thing. I was thinking our European friends are always whining and crying because we always leave them out because we don't want to do it at 4 a.m. So, I was thinking maybe we do it as a thought bomb, because this guest, first of all, aside from being one of my favorite people, thank you, Cecile. Aside from being one of my favorite people, has so much to say. She is so bright and fabulous. And I don't mean bright like, oh, she's so articulate, she's bright. I mean, she's so bright as in she is a breath of fresh air, and she's freaking brilliant. And I love her so much because she's pretty much family to me. And you are going to love it. All of you. It's going to be a really, really great conversation. And I mean it. So it's probably going to be a thought bomb. We haven't picked the day yet. So keep an eye out. See, we're adding suspense.
Look at us. And it might be on Thursday.
It might be on Thursday. It will probably be on Thursday, because God only knows with our schedules at this point. But I'm just saying, if a thought bomb comes up, we fully expect to see you guys sometime around then. But if not, we will see you next Thursday for ThoughtFlow at 7 p.m. 6 p.m. for people who like to shop at Walmart and maybe keep pants optional. Nikki. I'm kidding. Just everyone in the Midwest and other times too. So, guys, thank you for coming to play with us. Marco, thank you. Everyone that's contributed tonight and everyone that just showed up. Love you, mean it. This is so fun knowing that you're all there. So, thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
Happy weekend, everyone.
Yes, be safe.